last time we saw Jeffrey Epstein in West Palm Beach was September 6th of last year. He was getting off his private jet at PBIA to huddle with lawyers, fighting charges he used his mansion in Palm Beach for sexual escapades with girls under 18. Reliable sources tell us he'll report for a year-and-a-half term in prison in Florida in June, then face a year probation. The fact that Epstein was allowed to travel to Israel reflects his vast business interests around the world, according to someone close to the case. But allowing someone soon to be imprisoned on felony charges to leave the country is highly irregular. That, according to investigative journalist John Connolly, who has covered the Epstein scandal from day one.
In most instances where people are facing criminal time and because a plea agreement has been made or they're under arrest for serious charges, they are forced to surrender their passport. And apparently Mr. Epstein has not been forced to do that.
The fact that the court ordered Epstein not to have contact with underage girls may indicate that Epstein will be labeled a sex offender. That is something his vast stable of high-powered attorneys have been fighting. Sources tell us that Epstein will likely report to a state prison with modern internet facilities so that he can do business from behind bars. It's been more than 3 years now since Palm Beach police started investigating Jeffrey Epstein. Reporter Connolly says money has bought him time.
I've always been a bit shocked by the way the state prosecutor has handled this case from the get-go. Historically, the police have asked for arrest warrants and been given them. In this case, because of apparently some very high-powered attorneys, they've treated Mr. Epstein much differently.
A new twist in a case involving sex, money, Bear Stearns, and billionaire investor Jeffrey Epstein. Though he's just spent the last year in a Palm Beach, Florida prison for approaching teenage girls for sex, he's now a free man after 6 months were shaved off of his sentence. Why? He's helping the government, reportedly here, build its case against former Bear Stearns hedge fund managers Ralph Cioffi and Matthew Tannen. Now, Epstein lost $67 million from investments in the Bear funds that imploded, according to the New York Post. The collapse of those funds, if you remember, helped trigger the credit crunch, the collapse of Bear and its eventual absorption by J.P. Morgan, thanks to the U.S. government and the U.S. taxpayer.
When we take a deep breath, it's the ocean that produces more than half of that.
What astonished me was how many individuals were involved in assisting with this abuse, whether they participated in it or just allowed it to occur by helping enable it. So I call that the army of abusers because I really see that not only did they assist with it, but then they assisted later to keep these girls quiet.
And there's an allegation that I just read that you did not pursue a federal indictment, even though your staff had advocated that you do so. Is that accurate?
That is not accurate.
You find in this particular case some of the best people and some of the worst. And Police Chief Ryder and Detective Ricari both did such an amazing job. And I think that kind of gets lost in the fact that the case went away in the way that it did.
So I'm hopeful that in this new era where we have more comfort in people coming forward, victims coming forward and saying that happened to me too, that we will be able to make more movement in the area against the people who are involved in this circumstance. I do believe that we will get there. It's just a matter of time.
Jeffrey Epstein went to jail just before 10 this morning. He pleaded guilty in open court. He agreed to serve a total of 18 months in the Palm Beach detention facility, 12 for felony solicitation of prostitutes, and an additional 6 for procuring persons under 18 for prostitution. The conviction stemmed from several incidents from August of 2004 to October of 2005. The prosecuting attorney would not say how many female victims there are. She would only say there was more than one adult victim and more than one underage victim. After 18 months in the Palm Beach detention facility, Epstein will serve another 12 months house arrest at his Palm Beach home. The 54-year-old will be confined to his home except for work and other activities approved by his probation officer. In addition, Epstein will serve 12 months of community service at his own nonprofit, the Florida Science Foundation. And he has to stay away from minors. The guilty plea and deal end a years-long process that could have sent Epstein to jail for 15 years.
It's a long process. There were a lot of considerations made by the state, having victims testify, and their feelings regarding that, embarrassment to them, which might occur. And so it's just been a long time resolving it, coming to what we thought was an appropriate resolution.
Within 2 days of his release, Epstein will have to register as a sexual offender. It's a designation he'll have to keep for the rest of his life. In the newsroom, Nichelle King, News Channel 5.
Felicia, that's exactly right. Disturbing allegations, and it's been nearly 10 years since the disgraced billionaire admitted to paying for sexual massages from minors. Jeffrey Epstein only spent a little more than one of those years in jail. Now, one victim advocate says these new filings show the feds made a deal that favored Epstein and robbed these young women of their rights. He was a prominent Palm Beacher with nearly limitless resources. But for nearly a decade now, Jeffrey Epstein's name has been preempted by the title of registered sex offender.
The question was never whether or not Jeffrey Epstein engaged in human trafficking and sex with underage victims.
Jeff Dion runs a national center for victims of crime, and he says these new court filings reveal disturbing details about the deal the Fed struck with Epstein.
The question was, what was the government going to do about it, and were they going to treat those victims with the fairness, dignity, and respect that's required under the law.
In 2007, Epstein signed a federal non-prosecution agreement in exchange for a guilty plea on state prostitution charges with underage women. Little about the agreement had come to light until this month. A few weeks ago, the government opposed two of Epstein's victims. Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 allege federal prosecutors entered into an agreement without their knowledge and then covered it up until just days before Epstein entered his plea in court. Records show in a 2007 interview, Jane Doe told federal agents, quote, "I hope nothing happens to Jeffrey because he's an awesome man and it would really be a shame." The interview was conducted in front of an attorney on Epstein's bankroll.
I think it shows that Jeffrey Epstein tried to buy his way to freedom and was relatively successful.
But U.S. attorneys maintain Jane Doe 1 and 2 both used the agreement to collect later in court. Quote, now that their monetary settlements have been secured, the NPA has suddenly become the product of an illegal bargain between Epstein and the government, which the petitioners contend should be set aside. Now, in 2008, Jane Doe 1 said she did want to see Epstein prosecuted, but the NDA had been signed for months. Live in the newsroom, Whitney Burbank, WPBF 25 News.
Newly unsealed court documents include a sworn deposition from 2016 when an alleged victim of Jeffrey Epstein was asked which politically connected and financially powerful people she was directed to have sex with as a minor. That woman, Virginia Giuffre, has long accused Epstein and his one-time girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, of sexually abusing and recruiting her into the alleged sex trafficking ring. But the new documents name more names: former U.S. Senator George Mitchell and former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson. Richardson issued a statement today calling the allegations completely false. Governor Richardson has never met Ms. Giuffre. Mitchell echoed that denial in his own statement, saying he has never met, spoken with, or had any contact with Ms. Giuffre. The court documents stem from a now settled defamation lawsuit between Giuffre and Maxwell. Giuffre has been among the most vocal of Epstein's alleged victims.
You know, before you know it, I'm being lent out to politicians and to academics and to people that royalty.
In her deposition, Giuffre mentions, among others, Prince Andrew of Great Britain and high-powered attorney Alan Dershowitz, claiming Giuffre was trafficked to have sex with him in New York, Palm Beach, New Mexico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and on Epstein's private jet known as the Lolita Express. Dershowitz told CBS News today these documents exonerate him. He followed up with a statement saying, Giuffre invented the false accusations against me only in 2014 when her lawyers pressured her to do so for financial reasons. I never had sex with an underage person, Dershowitz claimed. I never socialized or had sex with any woman connected to Jeffrey Epstein. The court documents also include some new details about President Trump's relationship with Epstein. Giuffre says Trump and Epstein were friends. Flight records show then-citizen Trump flew on Epstein's jet in 1997. But Giuffre also said, according to the documents, she never had sex with Donald Trump, nor did she witness him have sex with any other girls. The president says he cut off Epstein years ago. Well, Jeffrey Epstein is sitting in a prison cell in Manhattan on federal sex trafficking charges. His trial is set for June 2020. Prosecutors say more alleged victims have come forward in that case. They are considering charging even more people. Epstein faces up to 45 years in prison if convicted. Mola Lengi.
We were underage. We were little girls. I was 16.
I was 16.
I started going to him when I was like 14 turning 15.
If you think at 14, $200, that's a lot of money at 14 years old. I mean, that's a lot of money now.
She's like, oh, do you need to make any extra money? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, I can give you, like $200. There's this older guy in Palm Beach. He gets a lot of massages from girls. That was really...
They were recruited by...
A new twist in a case involving sex, money, Bear Stearns, and billionaire investor Jeffrey Epstein. Though he's just spent the last year in a Palm Beach, Florida prison for approaching teenage girls for sex, he's now a free man after 6 months were shaved off of his sentence. Why? He's helping the government, reportedly here, build its case against former Bear Stearns hedge fund managers Ralph Cioffi and Matthew Tannen. Now, Epstein lost $67 million from investments in the Bear funds that imploded, according to the New York Post. The collapse of those funds, if you remember, helped trigger the credit crunch, the collapse of Bear and its eventual absorption by J.P. Morgan, thanks to the U.S. government and the U.S. taxpayer.